Okay, so we've basically reached the last video in our series of the Japanese sound set videos, and we've reached the last consonant, if you can call it that. So without further ado, let's get into that. The interesting thing is that despite what I told you before, in every case we've had this pattern where we have something with a, e, u, e, and o, right? We've always had this pattern where there is either the vowel by itself or a consonant and then the vowel. And I told you that there can never be a case where there's a consonant by itself. Well, this case is sort of an exception, or perhaps you could think of it as a vowel even if it's not considered a vowel in English, and that is the N. Now, the N in Japanese is somewhat interesting because it can have slightly different pronunciations according to English ears anyway. So now I know some people are thinking, wait a minute, we already went over the N, there was this na, ni, nu, ne, no series, so why is he bringing up N again? So the reason why we bring up N again is that N can exist on its own in certain circumstances. So it's a separate letter in Japanese than the other N-related sounds. So I'm just going to give examples in Japanese to make this a little bit easier. There are words that start with shin, which means new in Japanese, although we're not doing vocabulary yet, I'll give you that. So shin, let's say Yokohama, and that is a real place. So in this case, you see that this is shi, that's like one sound in Japanese. So if we just put little units around the individual sounds, it would come up like this, right? In Japanese letters, this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But in English, the spelling makes it out to be more. But in this case, you see this N is not followed by a vowel. So in this case, this N is this N right here. This is what it is. And it sounds like in. It sounds like the English N. Shin Yokohama, right? So in other cases, we have this word shinbashi, or no, if you want to use the spelling that I gave before, it would be like, let's see, S-H-I, right? Shinbashi. So in this case, again, shi is one unit, n is one unit, ba is one unit, shi is one unit. So there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we have an N by itself here. Again, it is this N. But actually what happens when you see this written in English, although N is a perfectly fine way to write it, it actually sounds more like bashi. It sounds more like an M, right? So sometimes we'll see when it's written out to look like English, it'll be written with an M. Sometimes it'll be written with an N. To be fair, it sounds like both, depending on the letter that's following it, basically, depending on the circumstance. But the important thing to know is that this is a separate sound unit, even though it's written with the same, N letter when it's written in English. So in the next video, we will go over the kind of wrap-up of how the whole sound system works.